Hi, we are here at the beach, Brand Innovators Beach. I'm Alex Stock, I'm a partner at Ernst Young, EY. I run our value creation business inside of Studio Plus. We're a multidisciplinary team of innovation strategists, researchers, designers, digital product strategists, and makers, and we create transformational experiences for our clients. I'm here with Zack Jerome, who's the GM of brand strategy at Microsoft. Welcome, Zack.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Likewise. It's great to see you. How's things going here at Cannes?
Yeah, it's been great so far. Seen a lot of amazing people talk, hearing what they're up to. Things are changing fast, and so it's good to catch up, see what everyone's working on, and how it's all changing.
Has anything in particular caught your eye that you've been up and down the set here?
Like so many things, I just think that what always strikes you about it is just how many people you can kind of see that you've wanted to hear what they have to say, like within the course of 5 hours.
The density
is incredible. You're like just 10 people you wanted to meet, and they're right there. You can hear what they're working on, and I think it's amazing.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
braving the heat.
Yes, exactly.
Sweating it out.
Yeah,
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your role at Microsoft. AI is, of course, the conversation. Everyone here is talking about it. It's in creative. It's in everything that we do. How does that change the role of brand strategy for you?
Yeah, I think as it relates to AI, I think what's critical is just that we keep, listening to how people are reacting and what they're needing from the technology. It's a foundational change that's going on. And so it's an exciting tool. It's an exciting companion. I think for us as brand strategists, it's been an incredibly useful sparring partner, brainstorming friend, if you will. And good gut check, but at the same time, so many things, don't change in that you have to bring your humanity to it. You have to bring your sense of, we'll connect with the person who's on the other end of whatever you're making. But you can kind of do it at scale. And and so that part's very exciting. And to be at Microsoft, who has been in this productivity space for 51 years now.
Yep.
We're right in the center of that talk, and it's just wonderful to be a part of helping bring what we see it being to the world.
You've had a wonderful background in the agency business. You were at Wieden & Kennedy, then Disney Plus, Apple. You spent some time, so you clearly learned a few things. I believe you've even had some work here that's won awards at clients in the past, right? So, as someone who's had that background, understands creative deeply, are there lessons that you can take from that world that you bring with you into your role now at Microsoft?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think every brand and every product is a bit different. But the foundational piece of like, who are we trying to connect with? Who's the person, like I said before, who's on the end of this communication? You see patterns over the years of different things. There's a way that we would do it at Apple, and may not translate directly to what we would do, at Disney Plus, and it doesn't translate directly to how you might do it at a Microsoft. But you pick things up, and what you kind of learn, particularly when you go from the agency side, where you kind of have the objectivity of being on the outside, to coming and working, brand side, you really gain an understanding of the consumer in a really special way, because all of your coworkers are so intimately aware of who they've been marketing this product to and these products to for how many years. And so I think a lot stays the same, but the things that change are the things that call you to new questions you want to answer. And I think, in this case, I have always just loved brands that everyone knows, and the chance to kind of write a new chapter for a brand that anywhere you go in the world, people have used Microsoft products, have had Windows, have had M365. But the chance to tell new stories with something like that is I get addicted to it.
Yeah. Well, that's you bring up a couple interesting points there. One, the relationship between brand strategy and product strategy.
Yeah.
So I have some questions for you about how you manage that and how that interaction works at Microsoft. Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. You have to get as close to the product as you possibly can, because ultimately, internally, you'll be looking at who the audience for this is and how people will use it and what the benefit could be. But, as we know, out in the world, there are always new use cases for technology, and you think of something like Excel, people, you think of it as your accountant. You think of it as a very like quant forward role. I mean, UI, I don't have to tell you. You know,
Been in plenty of spreadsheets.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, yeah, you know,
I'm a
about it.
consumer.
You're a consumer, but at the same time, it's like the other day I saw a dad was was using it to like fill out like a all-star little league, who's gonna play what position, what inning, and so it's what I like to say kind of is that like the muscles that you build at work you can use outside of work. And so I think that comes from knowing the product, because these use cases pop up that it's not why they built it. They didn't build it in 1985 to say, hey, let's organize little league or plan a vacation, but it's certainly like something people do.
Yeah.
And so the relationship that you have to have with product teams is to be very close with them. Because as a strategist, like you might hear what people might be able to do with it. And then I think particularly like a lot of the time where you do, kind of Apple does a lot of this work. We've done work like this where you're showing kind of a use case in an ad and you put it in a story form. The more relatable that story, the better off that communication will be. And even more so, the more that someone who's seeing the communication might go, oh, I could try that. I didn't know it could do that. I would like to try that. You don't have to go through the process of doing a tutorial or a DIY. You can just kind of hop in and
I really like the balance you're striking between narratives and use case. How do you manage the relationship between the brand Microsoft and then these products, Azure, Xbox, you mentioned Excel, the Office suite. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think my perspective on it is like I'm a huge lover of brand with a capital B. And so I always want people to feel that whether we're talking about M365 or Copilot or Azure or any of our other individual products within, say, an M365, I always want them to feel like they're coming from the same place. Mm-hmm. Because when you are a company that has all of these different lines of business and all these different products, these are all these different consumers, you want it to feel like it's part of a larger story.
Sure.
So that the brand can build on top of itself. And so you try and find a commonality. I think like at Microsoft, the legacy of like productivity and work and trying to own work in every way that we can is the place that I try to go. And so I always want to start to kind of ground something in work, how we feel about work, and ultimately just try and tell a story across lots of different products. And sometimes it's hard, because you might have a very specific need in a brief that we need to get people X to do action Y. And so you have to kind of lean in one direction, and you lose a little bit of the capital B in the brand because you don't want to put 15 messages in something. But whenever it's possible, making people feel like it's all coming from that same tone of voice and that same person as a brand is the goal.
Yeah, you're talking about the humanity of capital B brand strategy. That's I gotta believe very challenging in a world where the conversation's now all about AI being a very technical tool. Probably hard for many people to grasp kind of the underlying ways in which AI is working, not working. So how do you think about that in the capital B brand sense? You're building an emotional connection to a product. Trust, of course, becomes a part of that conversation. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it from the perspective that as AI continues to become a bigger part in our products and our lives, it to me feels still like such early days. You can come to something like this and there's so many conversations about it, and it feels like we're at the final chapter of the book, but in so many ways we're just getting started. And so brand is so critical, so that people can understand what you want people to get out of it. And so I always start from that place, and it's a nice part about being where I am in my career, having been around for a while, that I could come somewhere that I love the mission. I love what Microsoft's trying to do in this next frontier, and so it's a story that I'm interested in telling as a consumer, or hearing as a consumer, and then telling as a brand strategist. So I think that's kind of what it is. It's a lot of times you hear best product wins, but it's also best story wins.
Yep.
And having a good story, I think, has never been more important, as you're hearing many right now. And so we want ours to be compelling and human, and something that just hopes that people can integrate it in a way that makes their lives better.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you mentioned winning, and so this brings us to the part of the conversation that becomes about performance, which, right, the CMO, CFO relationship,
Yeah.
that, right. So what does winning entail? What metrics do you look at? How do you measure success, whether it's AI or otherwise, right? What are you looking at Microsoft?
So, I mean, I think there's lots of ways to look at it. I think, back at Wyden Kennedy, we used to kind of say, when you were getting parodied on SNL, you knew you were doing something right,
Sure.
because I think like it's like the they say like love and hate are not opposites. Actually, like they're very closely bonded. It's like ambivalence is the opposite
Right.
of like supercharged.
I want people to have emotion.
I want people to have emotion. And so, sometimes if you're provocative or if you tell something that's just so deeply honest, I've had this at many brands that I've worked on, people will talk about an ad still, even in this, in 2026, people still say, did you see this or this activation or this thing that a creator made on behalf of a brand? And so, the metrics that I tend to look for is, signals in the zeitgeist, signals in pop culture that like you're getting through when people are kind of understanding the role that like your brand is trying to play. You start to go, oh, okay, I get what they're doing, and you start to anticipate them a little bit. And I think that metric is big, and that's where like recall comes into it. That's where getting statistically significant lifts and awareness of things that were low. And I don't mean like, when you work at Microsoft, awareness of Microsoft is obviously super high, very true of, Disney, very true of Apple, things like that. So it's like when you get into measuring a campaign and thinking we need people to know this, and this about what we're putting on offer, trying to see if the work that we're making can start to move some of those metrics within the metrics in a way that are like a little bit more specific. Because I think one of the obviously there's a lot of blessings from being like a brand that's been around for a very long time, and one of them is the awareness piece. But the part that can be a curse at a time is that like that story is so baked in already that to get them to understand this is the new thing I need you to pay attention to is like no, like I know what you are, and having to reaffirm that. And so I think those signals are it, which is why I think you look to make provocative work, and hopefully provocative work starts with a really good brief, because we owe the creative teams a tight target, that they have to kind of be as creative as they can be to get out.
Got it. Well, I'll wrap it up then with maybe one last question, which is when we look 2 to 3 years out, and we're talking about the winners and losers in brand strategy, and maybe more specifically with respect to AI and how that conversation unfolds, what do you think separates those who have from those who don't?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down just to who is best able to show people the benefits that they can get from this technology and how they can integrate it into the life they're already living, and just be more productive. I think there's so many different vectors when people talk about AI of what you could do with it and what categories that it's becoming a part of. We are so grounded in productivity when you look at the things that we make, and people want to be more productive. They want to have more time in their day, and they want to feel like they've had a good sweat at the end of the day with work. I think we all feel better. It's like when you work out, I don't feel like I've worked out unless I'm like sweating or like the walk over here today. And so I think, that's what it comes down to is helping people see themselves in the technology. And I think that the people that are able to do that are going to be the winners. And I know for us, it'll be our prime focus, over the next couple of years. And you can hold me to that if we chat again here.
I'll see you
in a little bit.
Well, I'll see you next year. We'll check
let's
in.
do it. Yeah, we'll do a check-in.
Zach, thanks so much, man. It's great to see you.
This was great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. Let's get back to the beach.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Sounds good.
All right.